Welcome in to the Punt and Pass podcast. I'm your host, Drew Butler, joined alongside my co-host, Jake Fromm. Be sure to follow us on social media at Punt and Pass on X and Instagram. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at Fromm Jake. Puntandpass.com, the number one destination for all things college football. Well, it's the last day of September. Week 5 of the college football season is in the books. And I am back from what some are calling the greatest college football game ever. Jake, I was in Tuscaloosa. Let's set this episode up. All we're going to talk about this episode is a recap of what happened between Georgia and Alabama. So that's that. Monday Night Football coming up for the Detroit Lions. And then you are off to your bye week. How are you, brother?
Hey, man, I'm doing great. Honestly, I'm so glad that you survived this past weekend, that you didn't jump off the nosebleed seats. I'm just glad you made it back, But yeah, could have been maybe a little bit better weekend, but hey, we're here. Can't wait to talk about it, dive into it. I am feeling a little bit optimistic, man, but college football was great this weekend. Got a great, good game here on Monday night. Lions take on the Seahawks. So fired up about that. As always, man, glad to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm happy you're here too. You can maybe talk me off the ledge a little bit. I'm doing better. Went to the game. Of course, it was insane. Brought my whole family, Jackie, the girls. Wild, absolutely wild. And we will dive into that. This episode of Punt and Pass is presented to you by Solomon Brothers Jewelers. Always got to give a huge shout out to Solomon Brothers Jewelers. It's the best jewelry experience in the Atlanta area. When you walk into one of their stores, Jake, and you mentioned Punt and Pass, you can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. They have amazing jewelry, engagement rings, wedding bands, accessories, timepieces. It's incredible. 3 awesome locations for you to choose from as well. The OG locations in Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place. There's one up here by me in the North Metro in Alpharetta, just past the Avalon, and the newest location down south of the city in Sharpsburg. Again, walk in, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You can get up to 20% off your jewelry purchase. Check them out online, SolomonBrothers.com. They are at Solomon Brothers on X and Instagram. And coming up at the end of October, I believe it's the weekend of October 26th, Jake, it's wedding band weekend. So when you buy her wedding band, you get his absolutely free. No better time than right now if you're planning that holiday engagement. Walk into Solomon Brothers, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You get 20% off your in-store purchase on jewelry. And then you double up with wedding band weekend, buy her wedding band, get his absolutely free only at Solomon Brothers. That is at Solomon Brothers on social media, SolomonBrothers.com. I might need to hit up Solomon Brothers. I was just in a pouty mood first half, as you can probably expect. Of course, we're talking about the Georgia-Alabama game. Georgia falls to Alabama 41-34 in Tuscaloosa this past Saturday night. The new AP poll rankings came out. Jake, Alabama moves up to number 1. Georgia moves back to number 5. And I guess let's just kick things off. You and I were texting throughout the game. Just an unmitigated disaster for Georgia the entire first half. You look up and you're down 28-0. You go into halftime, you're down 30-7. Georgia was turning the ball over. There was miscommunication everywhere. There were dropped passes. The defense looked out of sorts. You could not have drawn up a worse start for the Georgia Bulldogs. And conversely, Alabama looked unstoppable.
Yeah, I mean, I think before we dive into what happened during the game, we got to talk about what led up to the game. Okay, both teams coming off a bye week, have 2 weeks to prepare for this game. When it's early enough in the season where you're already doing some pre-scouting for this game, coming up with ideas before really the season ever starts. And when you look at the first four possessions for Alabama, the first 4 possessions of the game for each team, you're like, wow. Like, what happened this past week? What went into the X's and O's? And Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, man, schemed us up. He did such a great job using shift, motions, formations into the boundary, jet sweeping to the field, and just did such a great job of getting the matchups he wanted, delivering the eye candy, and man, just executed to a T. They knew exactly what they were doing, and the defense had trouble setting the edge, and just got out to such a momentous lead there in the first half. When you just when you get yourself into that hole, it is so hard to dig yourself out.
Oh
Now,
man.
they almost did it, which is
Yes.
encouraging, and it should be very optimistic of how the boys finish the game. But you can't do yourself. And quite frankly, man, I just think before the game really ever got going and got started, I just looked like we got it coached and out schemed there to start things off.
I was texting with you watching that first half masterclass by Alabama and making Georgia's defense, quite frankly, look unprepared for much of the first and second quarter, where I was sitting way up high in the 300s. The pre-snap motions and movement that Kalen DeBoer has placed within this offense, watching guys orbit motion, watching guys move out of the backfield, watching receivers from the field side motion all the way over to the boundary side. You were literally seeing guys get wide open before the ball was even snapped. I don't know if it was a combination of things that the defense hadn't seen before. Maybe it was some miscommunication on the back end. It was so loud in there, even when they were on offense. I mean, that place was 100% packed to the gills. But what DeBoer was able to do as far as identify what type of coverage the defense was going to be in, put guys in maybe other positions on the field that they weren't necessarily comfortable in, and then snapping the ball and just watching plays develop to where Jalen Milroe was able to just sling it all over the field. And then some of his design runs, which obviously put Georgia in a bind as well. Milroe finishes with 16 carries, 117 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. Passing, he goes 27 of 33 for 374 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Yes, he had an interception as well. The Dogs didn't have an answer. And then we haven't even gotten to freshman phenom Ryan Williams yet, who is an absolute unstoppable force. Oh, he just had 6 catches for 177 yards and a touchdown that proved to be the difference in the game. But going back to what DeBoer's done with this offense and how they were able to scheme up Georgia's defense, you just hadn't seen that from a Kirby Smart coach team in what seems like forever.
Long time. Yeah, no, definitely a long time that has happened on defense. And you're like, man, like, wow, where did this come from? Yeah, just very surprising. And kind of picking up where you left off there with Jalen Milroe and Ryan Williams, 2 phenomenal players. Their best players played great, and our best players did not have their A game.
Correct.
In this game. I would say our best player on offense, Carson Beck, and our best player on defense, Malachi Starks. They didn't have their best games. You know, missed tackles, can't shed blocks, and it was tough, frustrating. Obviously, you know it's going to be very frustrating for those guys. But you just want to have your best players show up and play their best games. And also in these games, you want to be able, from a philosophy standpoint, from a head coaching position, you want to be able to dictate the terms of this game. And the way it started, for Alabama, touchdown, Georgia gets the ball, and you have a drop pass.
Perfect throw by Carson.
Oh, great throw by Carson. And then you have a missed cover 0 check.
Oh.
Screen.
Walk people through that.
That could have been to the house
as a quarterback. Walk people through the situation there, and let's remind them when it was. I think it was late in the first quarter. Georgia was already down 14-0. In their first drive, Carson Beck threw an absolute dime to Arian Smith. Arian beat the cornerback. Carson threw it in the basket. Arian just dropped it. That would have been a great way to kind of settle the offense into the game, take the crowd out of the game at that point. Doesn't work out. Bama gets a 3 and out. They go down and score. It's 14-0. Late in the first quarter, there was a play, and I saw it up in the 300 levels. There was a lot of communication between Carson Beck and his receivers as they were getting to the line of scrimmage. And then what happened, Jake?
Yeah, so before we even get started, maybe Carson's able to communicate better if he doesn't have a running back mouthpiece in.
What was that?
So either we forgot our mouthpiece, or somebody lost it, or he lost it. Like, I don't know.
Quarterbacks don't wear running back mouthpieces strapped to their face mask.
No. In the league, I would say 99% of quarterbacks don't wear mouthpieces anyway. Maybe in college, I can't really remember. You have to wear a mouthpiece. I have no idea. But could we maybe have communicated better on the road without a running back mouthpiece in? I think so.
That seems like a pretty fair assessment.
But anyway, so this is a third down, I believe. Carson's assessing the defense, does a great job of getting to a cover zero check. Screens are great versus cover zero. You kind of have two schools of thought here. Either we're going to get the ball out of our hands quick to a screen pass, or we're going to bring somebody in, the tight end, to block and get a max protection, and we're going to take our shot down the field. So we, elected to get a screen pass, put the ball into our playmakers' hands very quickly. Looks like all 10 other guys got the check except for one, and we throw an interception, turn the ball over, and it leads to more Alabama points.
So does Arian not run the route that he's being checked to now run, which is a wide receiver screen? Because he obviously, I don't know if it was a quick slant or what, but he was gone. And
yeah, he was running whatever the previously called play was from the huddle. He didn't get the check. If he did get the check, he's going to take one step, take two steps back, pop, catch the ball on his face mask, and we're getting north and south vertically and quickly.
Yes.
Obviously, he didn't do that. And Carson's, he's under duress, under fire. He knows he has to get this ball out of his hands quickly, and he's taking a 1-2 shortstop, second baseman turning
anything at that
point.
No,
man. I'm trying to get this ball out as fast as I possibly can, and he just kind of sees color and like what's this guy doing, and the DB catches it. I mean, just super unfortunate. You hate to have it from the quarterback's perspective. Like, what are we doing? But tough place to be in. On the road in a hostile environment, down 28 points, and then get a hole or a intentional grounding, take a safety backed up. I mean, just so many things that we have to climb and get out of this ginormous hole that we've dug ourselves in, and go ahead late in the game at 34-33. Lose it when this guy is playing great. Another thing that I noticed, just watching, I'm not on the field, I'm at home watching on my TV, but the speed of the game that Alabama was playing at was completely different than what we were playing at. Those dudes, looked fresh. Those dudes were hauling.
Loose.
I would love to have seen some of the max speeds that these guys were having in these bursts of acceleration, because our guys just look slow and sluggish. And I don't know if this is a philosophy practice deal. Those guys just happen to be fresh, or man, they just have the right dudes over there, and those guys are just different animals than what we're playing with. I have no idea.
What's the old saying? You might know it better than me. I'm going to try to piece it together, but it's like when you're loose, you're smooth, and smooth is fast, or something like that. Essentially saying like you're not playing uptight, you're having fun. That's how Alabama looked. Because I was texting with you, and you were just like speed. The discrepancy was jarring in the first half. Georgia's defense was gassed. They couldn't get off the field. Alabama was having their pick of the litter as far as what they wanted to call. And let's just get one thing straight. Nobody wants to win the game more than the guys wearing red and black, than the guys wearing crimson and white, than the coaches who are out there. I mean, in no way, shape, or form are you sitting there saying like these guys are enjoying getting their asses kicked, because that's exactly what was happening. You got to start throwing roses towards the adjustments that were made by Kirby Smart and this entire coaching staff in the second half to fight and battle back to get into that game. But in the same vein, those guys, and Kirby Smart said it after the game, he's like, hand up, us and the way we started that football game is my fault. He's got to be frustrated that DeBoer and the Alabama coaching staff saw something on tape to be able to take advantage of Georgia's defense that fiercely that early in the game, Jake.
Yeah, whether, not necessarily as healthy up front as Georgia would have liked to have been, with Michael being a game time decision, he ended up playing. Jordan Hall didn't play. Don't know if Warren Brinson played or was that involved. But you could just tell that the edges were not set. That's huge. I remember just hearing that at practice. Set the edge. It just huge defensive philosophy coming from Kirby. Just got to be able to set the edge, contain, and just get them swarming back into the middle where all the bodies are at, and just lost it. And you can't do it scheme-wise, and you can't do it when these guys out there are just faster than you.
I know.
When Jalen Milroe, by far, bar none, the best athlete on that field, and he showed it. Could throw it, could run it. He just did whatever he wanted. It was like a high school football game, the way he just took over every aspect of the game. Made it very fun to watch. On the flip side, let's talk about Carson. playing in this game. Obviously started horrible, man. That's just not the way you want to start a game. And the thing is, like, the first pass of the game, I love the philosophy of coming out. Hey man, we're coming out and we are swinging. Throws a nice deep cross over the middle. Great ball to Arian that gets dropped. Hated that the cover zero check didn't work out the way he did. And then he kind of gets flustered, starts seeing maybe some ghosts. And man, I got to dig myself out of this. Figured it out and turned it around in the second half. Still turned the ball over twice with the fumble and obviously the interception to end the game. But I could see him responding very well. I know he learned a lot in this game. He maybe have learned more in this one game that he has in all his other starts put together. He really got put through the ringer, got put in horrible situations, and he had to swing his way out to get even in striking distance, and then to be able to go ahead. So I am optimistic about the way things finished up. I mean, just what a horrible first half, coupled with a very strong and tough second half that they were able to put together.
Yeah, you bring up two really good points. One, you love the aggressiveness that Georgia came out with from a play calling perspective. We talked about this on Thursday's episode when I asked you, will the first 15 plays be set in stone, or will they respond to what happens possibly before they get the football, which was Alabama marched right down the field. Yep. They scored. Georgia gets the ball. They take those shots. I'm all good with that. Again, Arian dropped the ball. I mean, he should be the first person to tell you that. I watched it again this morning. Phenomenal throw by Carson. Great play call. Arian beat the guy. He just dropped it. That would have settled this offense into the game much better than what ended up happening. And for all the fans who have been clamoring for Georgia, and I've probably fallen into this trap as well, clamoring for Georgia to push the ball down the field. Hey, let's take some shots. Let's throw the ball early. That's the danger that you play with when you go against an explosive offense like Alabama. 3 and out, boom, they score. 3 and out, boom, they score. Fumble or interception, boom, they score. You blink, you're down 21-0, right? What happened in the second half, one, Georgia got it within a 3-possession game, which was absolutely massive going into halftime, as desperate as it did seem. But from the start of the third quarter on, they were going for it on fourth down regardless, right? It was time to go. Then they started running the ball. Then you keep Alabama's defense a little bit more honest. Then things begin to open up. So one last question kind of before we get into the adjustments in the second half of the game. When shit is hitting the fan like it was for Georgia, defense couldn't get a stop. Carson was turning the ball over. Everybody was all out of sorts. What is the thought process as a quarterback in that situation? Was there ever a point where you thought to yourself, like, dude, maybe they should just give Carson a series off to just get him on the sideline, take a deep breath, maybe see how things are going from this vantage point? Or do you just, like you just said, let us swing his way out of it as bad as it did seem?
Yeah, I'm going back to 2017 Georgia football slogan of keep chopping. I mean, you have to get the first one, right? Hey man, let's just operate. Let's go down and score. Let's get the first touchdown. All right, we gotta score points. Let's just get the first one, and then
There's no
we'll
such
figure
thing
it
as
out.
a 29-point play.
Yeah, there's no such thing. Hey, whatever it takes, let's just get the first one. Let's move down, and then we'll assess where we're at from there, and then we'll get the next one. But before we get the next one, we have to get the first one. So it's just operating, moving. Hey, whatever we got to do, let's just score a touchdown. Let's get this monkey off our back, and let's go. They were atrocious on third down in the first half. So bad. I think it was 0 for. Now the fourth down conversions helped move the chains a little bit.
They were 3 of 15 on third down for the game. Come on.
Ooh, that's just bad.
They were 5 for 5 on fourth down, which made up for it in the second half.
Yeah. So it's a tough place to be when you're not converting in these situational parts of the game. Ball security an issue. They hadn't turned the ball over as an offense in the other 3 games, and then we're going to turn the ball over 4 times in this game. I mean, it's just not a recipe of winning there, and it's so tough to just come back from those situations.
Okay, if you would have told me on Thursday's episode, again, let's play the box score game. Hey, Drew, Georgia's going to turn the ball over 4 times. Jalen Milroe is going to rush for 117 yards, and Georgia will run the ball 26 times for 80 yards. Oh, yeah, and Georgia's gonna be 3 of 15 on third down. I would say Georgia's gonna lose that game by 100 points, and they
Yep.
damn near almost did in the first half. So, what ended up happening is that they were able to mount what could have been one of the best comebacks really in the history of college football, I mean,
Really?
given the circumstances. And I do wanna bring up what Paul Feinbaum said. Feinbaum, who's been around the SEC for like 100 years, the guy's a dinosaur. He did not mince words as far as what he thought this game ended up being between Alabama and Georgia.
Trevor, I've covered the SEC for more than 40 years. You can see that on my face right here. But I believe that's the best college football game in the SEC I have seen during all those years. And I know we often get hung up on being prisoners of the moment, but that is an exaggeration to say that we are in this case. You saw the lead, you saw the comeback, you saw the ending. It had everything you could have, including the fact that we have the best rivalry in the SEC. Two of the best teams in the entire country who may or may not play again. It had absolutely everything. But what Kirby Smart said is correct. That is true of both schools. Nobody left anything on the field. They put it all out there. And if you ask who's the better team won, but the next time it could be different.
Yeah, Paul, I think you're right. I can see a couple of extra lines on your forehead right now that you can always remember this game by.
Listen, that is the mouth of the South.
All right, so if you're watching on YouTube, while Paul Feinbaum was talking on SportsCenter, they kept replaying the 75-yard touchdown catch, pass, and run, Jalen Milroe to Ryan Williams. That dead leg spin move, so sick. I mean, I don't know where he came up with that, but he got Julian Humphrey and KJ Bolden to essentially run into each other. If one of those guys was able to just push him out of bounds, Georgia certainly still had a chance. They did, even though they had to drive the ball back down the field. But it ended up being one of the craziest games ever. What in the hell is being said in the locker room at that point? Is it the chopping wood talk? Is it the, hey, guys, let's just get one on the board and go from there? Is Carson getting up and saying anything? Does Kirby give a rah-rah speech? I mean, I've been in some locker rooms where things are looking pretty bleak, and I guess it just depends on the personalities of the team or maybe even the head coach at that point to deliver a message saying this is not over.
Yes, somebody in there is delivering a message. It's probably, I know obviously Kirby has his words and whether or not what approach he went with, I have no idea. But for him, it's either a hot and fiery approach or a softer, hey,
I would
let's
think
settle
gotta
down
be
and settle
softer in that situation,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what they got from him. And from there, I would love to know who did step up and say something and who are those guys, those vocal leadership guys that are stepping up and not only stepping up and saying something and turn around and then showing it on the field and making plays as well. So I'd love to know and figure that out. I hope it was Carson because he came out and played really well in the second half. But I'd love to know and been a fly on the wall in that situation because, man, that is a tough place to be on the road against a team we've beaten one time under Kirby in the last I don't know 6, 7, 8 years. So it's a tough place to be, man. It really is. But man, hats off to those guys for fighting the second half. Can't wait to dive in more about it. But man, just what a game. Really,
I think it sounds like you and I are agreeing on this. Having been in locker rooms, that is the prototypical situation for the head coach to have palms down. Just calm everybody down a little bit because you had just gotten punched in the face for 30 straight minutes. And then after you deliver that message, I feel like that's when the players come in and get a little bit more animated because what's the point of Kirby Smart going in there and bitching and yelling at everybody and screaming when everybody's already so down? I think you have to kind of level set with them, give them a vision and a game plan of here is how we can work ourselves back into this game. And then when that message is done, allow a Carson or a Tate Ratledge or a Malachi, whoever it is, to step up and say, let's go execute a game plan. And that's exactly what they did coming out of the second half, Jake. 3-possession game, 4-down territory for the remainder of the game, figuring out how can we sustain a drive, give our defense a little bit of rest, start putting points on the board. And it was crazy because in the stands, no Georgia fan had anything to cheer about, obviously. First touchdown, who cares? Nobody cheered. Second touchdown to get 15 points. You missed the 2-point conversion, or did you get the first? You got the first 2-point conversion, lost unlucky. Still, nobody cheers. And then you kind of blink and Georgia's all of a sudden back into the game. So you had some life, and that's when that Uncle Mo started swinging, and you kind of sense the reluctancy of the Alabama fan base. You're like, oh, we're about to have a football game, and you could start feeling Georgia grabbing onto that and fight their way back into it.
Yeah, they definitely got some momentum going on the ball. The only thing that I didn't really like seeing, and I don't think and obviously it wasn't the winning recipe. And I think it's a tough recipe and a solution going further throughout the season. I think it's great to have it, got to be able to do it. But being your answer on offense is if it's throwing go balls and throwing fade balls, I think it's a very tough position to be in as an offense when you're just putting all
fire. Yes.
Yeah, when you're putting all your eggs in that basket, when one of the two guys is a little bit off, you're playing a good player at the corner position. Look, I have been in that world a lot of times in my career. In high school, that was our answer. Hey, man, I was good at throwing them, and we had guys to go do it.
Yeah.
But when you live and die by the go ball, it is a tough pill to swallow when they are not dropping and you're just not connecting on them. But they hit them multiple times in the game. But to start the game off, had that drop and had the interception on a go and a fade ball. It's just it's tough when that is your only solution. So we got to find other answers throughout the offense and what they have to win versus man coverage and to be able to go and make a play. And that's something that feels good that Carson can go and to operate. So it just looked like he had a hard time kind of over the middle of the field of feeling what the coverage was, where everybody was at. And he felt so much comfort just saying, hey, man, I'm just going to go throw a go ball out wide. And if they make a play, great. But if they don't, that's when we get in a tough position as an offense, get behind the chains, and you're throwing up a 50-50 ball where a DB can come down with it as well.
Yeah, listen, every offense, every successful game plan has just that, a sound plan rather than, hey, let's just go take shots and see if something sticks. And it's much like the people who shop at Solomon Brothers to get their fine jewelry needs in the city of Atlanta. If you need a sound game plan, you go to Solomon Brothers. They've got the professionals that can help you out. They can help you execute your game plan as far as engagement rings, wedding bands, beautiful jewelry, accessories, and of course, awesome timepiece selection as well for those gentlemen in your lives. If you go inside a Solomon Brothers store and mention Punt and Pass, you can get 20% off your jewelry purchase. 3 incredible locations to choose from: Buckhead, Alpharetta, and Peachtree City, aka Sharpsburg. In-store experience that's totally unmatched. Full bar service, incredible jewelry selection. Check them out online, SolomonBrothers.com, at Solomon Brothers on social media. Okay, so Georgia starts fighting their way back. Fourth quarter, they score a touchdown to Lawson Lucky with 10 minutes left in the game to make it 21-33. They missed that 2-point conversion. Then they get the ball back. They drive back down again. Dylan Bell runs the ball in from 3 yards out. You take the extra point. Now it is a 5-point game. And then the 67-yard touchdown pass, Carson Beck to Dylan Bell, the only time I cheered the entire game. You take the lead by 1. You miss yet another 2-point conversion. So now, Jake, you've ran 3 2-point plays. You've only converted on 1. You have a 1-point lead with 2 minutes and 31 seconds left. You have 3 timeouts in your pocket. There's also the new 2-minute timeout. So essentially 4 timeouts left in the game. You're kicking the ball back to Alabama. Your defense has all the momentum. They haven't done anything throughout the fourth quarter, and it just takes 1 play. They chuck it up to Ryan Williams. He made a great play on the ball. Julian Humphreys couldn't get his eyes around. KJ Bolden then runs into Julian Humphreys after the dead-lead spin move. 17-year-old Ryan Williams runs up the right sideline to put the game away at that point for Alabama. Can't tell you how loud it was in that stadium. I mean, it went absolutely ballistic. That was crazy. At that point, you just kind of like tip your cap and say, okay, can the offense do it one more time? Can they go down the field one more time? And now you have to score a touchdown and kick an extra point, presumably, to tie the game and take it into overtime. Just makes you scratch your head. It was an unbelievable back and forth heavyweight boxing match late in that game.
Yeah, I mean, back to let's just talk about the roller coaster of emotions. Kirby alludes to that all the time in these kind of big games and SEC championship games. And man, you just have to ride the roller coaster of emotions, stay even keel, and on to the next play. Going back to the 50-50 go balls, Jalen Milroe tosses it up to Ryan Williams, the 17-year-old who should be in high school right now.
Yes.
And
Does anybody know how he got into college? Surely, based on his athletic prowess, he should be in college. I mean, the guy is incredible.
Unbelievable.
How's he in college? Did he take AP classes? I have no idea.
I guess whatever Quinn Ewers did when he graduated early. I have no idea. That's the plan. My advice, however, this is a complete sidebar here. My advice, I would say be as old as you can and stay as old as you can. And I wouldn't accelerate that process at all because it helps you so much the next level you go. Obviously, this guy's a completely different cat and this dude's a baller and he can do it. However, I would advise, hey man, just the more your body matures, to me, the better odds you have at being successful. But complete sidebar.
Well, the ball that he caught where he tipped, like his body control in that moment. I mean,
absurd.
Just absurd. You're totally right.
It is absurd, but that's a 50-50 go ball, slightly underthrown. This guy makes a play so that Alabama scores a touchdown. They go back up, 2-point conversion, good, 41-34. Georgia gets the ball. They're going back and get within range, get within striking distance, back to the 50-50 go ball. We toss it up, slightly underthrown, but the DB, picks it off.
Made a great play on the ball. You got to throw that to the back pylon, no? Or at least chuck it up high where Colby's the one kind of dictating who's coming down with it. Colby Young, obviously 6'3". Underthrown. DB made a great play on it. Game over.
Gotta read the hips, figure out body position, and put, the ball where it's our guy's body between the ball and the defensive back. So, just tough. It really is when you're trusting your guy. Hey, I trust this guy. He's got to go make a play for me, and really putting the entire team kind of in his hands and whatever play he makes. But obviously, just didn't get done. So.
While that ball was underthrown by Carson Beck, everybody could see that the 67-yard touchdown pass to Dylan Bell, where he pump fakes and the safety bites. That ball was beautiful. That was, again, going back to the only time I cheered in the entire game. It was the atmosphere there. I have to give Alabama a lot of credit. Their like crowd activations during TV timeouts, that place was rocking, literally rocking. From an hour before kickoff all the way to the end. They're doing the light shows during the timeouts. They got some guy with a microphone just pepping up the entire crowd the entire game. The celebrities that were there, College Game Day was down the field. I think Mark Ingram was there, or he might not have been there, or just on the Jumbotron.
I saw AJ McCarron on TV.
Okay, McCarron was there. Obviously, Trump was there. John Daly was there. Kid Rock was there. Wow. Herschel Walker was there. Hank Williams Jr. was there.
Wow.
So they showed Trump on the Jumbotron. Place goes crazy. SEC chants turned into USA chants. That was wild. And that's when you saw all the people in there. You're like, oh my God, look at all these. What a collection of characters in that box, by the way. But then Kid Rock and Hank Williams Jr. are down on the field. So they put them on the Jumbotron and immediately cue up all summer long the Sweet Home Alabama riff by Kid Rock. So the whole crowd starts singing that. They did the Sweet Home Alabama. They did the Dixieland Delight. I mean, I heard those songs 7 million times each over the weekend. Where we were in the 300s, literally backs against the concrete, highest seats up there. We were looking down. I was like on the 25-yard line. The opposite 50 is where the box with Trump was. So at halftime, which I believe is when he left, I don't know, we're listening, and you hear like a zzz we're pretty sure there were Secret Service snipers on
Right
top
above
of
you.
us on the metal roofs, and they were like rappelling down. So it literally had like a Super Bowl type atmosphere to the game. Like TSA and FBI checkpoints to get into the stadium. For whatever that's worth, Georgia makes a valiant effort to come back. They fall short. They lose 41-34. And now, of course, Jake, the talking point is Kirby Smart versus Alabama. He now moves to 1-6 against them. Kalen DeBoer's record, that was his first SEC game as the head coach of Alabama, passes a huge test, knocking off the number 2 team in the nation. His career record against top 10 teams now is something crazy, like 13-1, I want to say. But obviously, Kirby Smart was asked about this after the game. Your record against Alabama, what does it mean? I found his answer to be quite insightful.
1-6 in your career against Alabama. Is there anything that leads to that?
I don't know. What's Alabama's record against them? Has anybody got one better than 1-6? Displayed them 6 times? I don't think so. I think they got really good players. They got a great program. I got an immense amount of respect for them. They do a great job. I mean, Nick's recruited good players. Kalen's gotten good players in here, and it's a tough battle. Of those 2 of them been here. And they've been tough. They've been really tough battles. So a lot of credit to those guys and a lot of respect for them.
I thought that was a great answer. Like, what else are you going to say? It's not like you're losing to the Sisters of the Blind and Poor. It's Alabama. They've got great talent. They've got great teams. The greatest coach of all time just retired from there. They still have a bunch of great talent. Look at this Ryan Williams kid. Jalen Milroe might win the Heisman. Like, I'm so confused, Jake, and tell me if I'm wrong. People are like, oh, they're Kirby's cursed. They'll never be able to slay the beast of Alabama. He's 1-6. I'm like, okay, they beat Alabama for a national championship game. Like, I'm confused how it's kind of morphed into this. They'll never beat Alabama. Dude, they beat Alabama for a national championship game. That narrative is just tired to me.
Yeah, I agree, man. It's been done, but at the end of the day, there's still such a unique program, a dynasty with Coach Saban. What they've been able to build and repeatedly do over the years is nothing short of incredible. And let's just take the games for the body of work. A lot of the times, man, when you watch the game, you're like, dude, we're just beating these guys up and down the field and just lose on the scoreboard. Kind of going back to my 2 games where we're leading in those games for 118 out of 120 minutes of the 100%. Game. So it's there, it's close, but they find a way to win. So you have to give them their credit, have to give them their flowers. But I know deep down in my heart of hearts, I'm like, dude, I feel like I got a good end of them. Like I got their best, and I feel like I did well, but just happened to lose there at the last few seconds of the game, and it sucks. It really does. But I know it's hitting nobody harder than that guy right there. I know fans want to see it done. Former players, everybody involved wants to see it done, but I know it really, really hurts him, and I know nobody wants to win more than he does.
Yeah, and look, again, it has been done. They beat the beast, and they won a national championship because of it. These teams are going to continue to play. The implications will continue to be massive. I joked about it on the radio this morning. I said, I remember when Georgia fans cared a lot about regular season football. Probably going to see him again. Will it be in the SEC championship? Quite frankly, I don't care about the SEC championship game. College football has changed so much with this new 12-team playoff. Who knows who will be hot and cold at the right times, but that was an incredible football game. I was in the building. Now I know. Now I understand why fans get so emotional, why fans care so much. I spent a lot of money to take my family to Tuscaloosa to go to that football game. And for the first 30 minutes, I was not happy. It felt torturous sitting up in those seats down 30-7, having Alabama fans scream in your face. The comeback happens. You get excited. You get fired up. Then, of course, you have your heart ripped out at the end there. So having that type of investment financially and emotionally, Jake, it will bring
changes the game
out.
huh?
Hell yes, it does, brother. It will bring the fan out in you. But look, a respectful a respectful defeat now. Later on in the season, they'll look back at that game. Of course, we'll see those highlights forever and ever. But will they play again? Who knows? But week 5 in the books. I mean, any other things to talk about? Oklahoma beats Auburn on a pick 6. Those turnover woes continue. Auburn
Ole Miss
now
goes down.
heads to Athens this weekend. Ole Miss loses to Kentucky. Shout out Brock Vandergriff. He gets a huge win in his career there at Kentucky. And then anything else? Louisville, Notre Dame beats Louisville. That Friday night game was crazy. That Miami ended with Virginia Tech. I was shocked they called that a catch.
I'm surprised
that
they
called
overturned
it a
it.
catch. You thought
Yeah. Well, I just whatever it was, I thought that was just the way it was going to be, right? I didn't think the camera angle really dictated one way or another. If they called it incomplete, it's going to be incomplete. If they called it a catch, it's going to be a catch. That's just the way I saw it, the way I thought it was going to be, but obviously not. They got the call in from New York, like we say in the NFL, and they changed it.
That's right. So wow, what a weekend. Can't wait to hear some of the fan reactions there. And again, don't miss me with that 1-6 nonsense. I'm unbothered. We beat Alabama. Georgia beat Alabama for a national championship. That's good by me. We'll see you again for sure. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Be sure to follow us, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube or Apple Podcasts or Spotify. We are at Punt and Pass on social media. I'm at Drew Butler. He's at From Jake, puntandpass.com. And again, this episode of Punt and Pass presented to you by Solomon Brothers Jewelers. 3 amazing locations in Atlanta. One's in Buckhead, 17th floor, Tower Place. Alpharetta, just past the Avalon in the North Metro. And down south of the city, Peachtree City in Sharpsburg. The best in-store experience in Atlanta for all your jewelry needs. When you walk in store, tell them Punt and Pass sent you. You can get 20% off your jewelry purchase. They got a full bar in there. Go get you a cocktail. Go hang out. Let the professionals help you help your situation with whatever relationship you may be in. If you got an engagement coming up, now is the time. Wedding band weekend at the end of October. Buy her wedding band. Get his totally free. Yeah, compound that with a little 20% off in-store purchase brought to you by Punt and Pass. You will be set and ready to go. Check them out at Solomon Brothers and SolomonBrothers.com. Jake, anything on the way out, my man?
Yeah, just want to get something off my chest,
Please.
right here. I just, I feel like was very, very tough on the guys, very, very critical of the way things turned out of the team. The way they finished, super proud of them. And I'm very encouraged and I'm very optimistic moving forward. And I know those guys, Alabama, do not want to see dogs again later in the year. So I feel like that needs to be said. And I feel like that kind of needs to be the feeling moving on. And I know a fire's getting lit under those guys right now. They're going to lick their wounds and they'll move on, and just to expect nothing but really, really good things from those guys moving forward.
I totally agree. And I think how Kirby Smart was in his post-game press conference kind of tells you that that's probably the mindset that the team took leaving that stadium. That is a hard-ass place to play. They got absolutely knocked out cold in the first half and were able to scrape themselves up off the mat and put up a hell of a fight, man. So unbelievable game. And I would just have to venture to say those two teams probably find a way to play each other once more this season. So appreciate everybody listening. Go Lions tonight, a little Monday Night Football action. And we will talk to you on Thursday. See ya.
We out.